we want to look at change and how it affects the average human being. Are you really ready for change? Maybe we should start by asking what change really is. Change is anything that has a way of affecting our present situation. Anything that has a way of changing what we are doing now into something else is what we refer to as change. It is said that the only thing constant in life is change. Change must come. It is inevitable. So are you ready for it? Let's see how it's going to impact the average human being. So let's talk about how change is going to impact the life of every human being. I will start by taking an example of when I was in the corporate world. I spent a good number of years in the corporate world, and we used to have these people they call typists. The job of the typist is to, type whatever you give to him or her to type. You write something on paper, you have your item documented, and you give to the typist to, use the typewriter to write it out. That is the basic job of the typist. Just to sit down, type out whatever you give to him or her. So, as I was saying, in those days, that was the job of the typist. And we began to see the gradual introduction of the computer system. The computer system comes with a keyboard. And the keyboard is mainly it's not only about typing, but also the ability to do many other different functions, perform many other different functions, apart from typing. So it's a combination of both the job of the typist and some other jobs. So when the computer system was introduced, the typists virtually lost their jobs. So what we are trying to say is that the typists not only lost their job, but other people began to learn what the typist was doing, plus some other functions which the computer was supposed to perform. Those were some of the effects of, the introduction of change in my corporate world. Then back in the day, we had this organization they call NITEL. The NITEL as an organization was the main telecommunication company in the country. If you have to call anywhere outside, far-flung places outside the country, you must go through NITEL, because NITEL was responsible for everything telecommunication in Nigeria. In fact, if you want to call some distant places, even within the country, you still have to use NITEL. So what was that people have to go to NITEL office to make calls. If you want to call internationally, you have to go there and queue up. For those people that have analog telephone at home, you have to get to NITEL to give them your number so that they will get you the place where you want to call. Then they will eventually get back to you and you will make the call. But this NITEL system that NITEL was operating was very, very cumbersome. In fact, you may just not be able to make your call in a particular day because it takes NITEL quite a long time to bring, to bring you the call you want to make. But thank God, eventually, when the Obasanjo administration came in, they introduced the GSM. So virtually everybody had access to the GSM. and you do not have to go to NITEL to make your call anymore. And you know, this change we are talking about comes with its own opportunities. I remember working in the bank then, and what happens or what obtains then was that if you are newly employed in the bank and you are hardworking, if you spend about 3-4 years and they review your performance and discover that you are diligent in your work, they will promote you. But with time, there was a change in policy. Change again brought about a new policy whereby you don't have to wait 3-4 years before you get promoted. What you need to do is to, take some banking related exams. Once you pass your exams, within a space of 1-2 years, they will promote you. As long as you are working diligently and you've been able to pass your exams, the bank will promote you. That was what change brought into the banking system. So that introduction, that change in policy was one that was such that it was not only able to, make you improve yourself, but, while improving yourself, you are also able to earn a living and take care of your needs. You don't have to leave the job and go educate yourself. No, you remain on the job, improve yourself, and, continue to make your living. That was one good thing about what that change in policy brought about. Change can lead to a high level of fear and uncertainty. For instance, if a young lady who had just got married and is asked to go to his husband's house, you know the kind of fear that comes with it. Somebody who has been with the parents for the past 20-25 years is now being asked to leave the parents and go and stay in another man's house. Another man they call the husband. You can imagine the kind of uncertainty that comes with it. It can be quite challenging and demanding. But that is what change causes. Or a situation where somebody divorces their spouse, and you are asking somebody who's been with a man who's been with a woman, or a woman who's been with a man for the past how many donkey years. You're asking them to come and separate. It could be devastating. It could be devastating on the children. It could be devastating on the individuals concerned. And it comes with a lot of fears and uncertainty. But that is what change causes. I remember, again, in the corporate world, in the late 90s, we've just rolled into 1999, and we are going to roll into 2000. There was this palpable fear that the computer system will not be able to handle our jobs anymore. What happened was that then the computer system was configured in such a way that it can take a date it looks at the year and takes the last 2 figures of the year. It can recognize the year 1999 as 99, but it may not, or it could not recognize the year 2000, because year 2000 will eventually become year 00. So how is the computer going to handle that? Because most computers are not configured to recognize year 2000. So it was, a lot of fear. How are we going to do it? What is going to happen? Are we going to, is the whole system going to collapse? The fear at the back of everybody was that if you are not year 2000 compliant, if your system is not year 2000 compliant, there's going to be a problem. Remember that thing they call year Y2K bug? Year Y2K bug. It was just coined out of the fact that the computer system, as it was operating then, may not be able to recognize whatever happens in year 2000. For instance, if you are doing something on the 1st of January 1999, the computer would recognize the date as 01/01/99. But if you are going to do that same thing in year 2000, how is the computer going to recognize it? Is it going to recognize it as 01/01/00? That was the fear then. And most systems were not year 2000 compliant. So it eventually become or they eventually labeled it as a bug, labeled it as year 2K bug. So we began to work very hard to overcome the change. Eventually, we were able to overcome it, and year 2000 rolled in. With its challenges, no doubt about it, but we were able to overcome. Those were some of the fears that come with change. It should be noted that the change we are talking about also has its good sides. You know, when somebody is transiting from one thing to another, it has its good sides. For instance, if you are told, if one is, sickly and they discover that you are eating too many junk foods, you may be advised to transition from these junk foods to, the very healthy foods. That is what a lot of people do. They transition from the junk foods they eat to some healthy food, and they get better. Things begin to look better for them. So that is the effect of, or one of the effects of, or one of the good sides of change. How do you explain a situation where you sit in the comfort of your home and you are able to telephone places like London or New York? That is what change brings about. Ordinarily, you have to go through that organization called NITEL. And NITEL was then a pain in the neck. You have to wait, you have to queue, you have to, do many things just to make a phone call. But when GSM came, and the likes of MTN and Glo came, telephoning became something, one looks forward to, unlike when we had NITEL. Let's look at some of the bad sides of change. Change comes with its own inconvenience. At times it could be very, very inconveniencing for you to change. Let's look at what happened in Nigerian environment when the current administration came into office. What they did was that they had to withdraw, or let me put it this way, government was paying subsidy on fuel. That's the fuel that is consumed within the country. Because the country, extracts, crude oil. We have crude oil in the country. So we extract it and send to other places to get this crude oil refined into petroleum products. And, we buy them back. The expectation was that since we have the crude oil in the country, then payment for refined petroleum is not supposed to be expensive. But the whole thing became very fraudulent, and the government decided to withdraw the subsidy they were paying on petroleum. So when the subsidy was withdrawn, the cost of petrol became very, very expensive. The cost of petrol became very expensive, such that it affected virtually the price of everything in the country. Nigeria is a petrol-dependent economy. Almost everything you do in the country, it depends on petrol. So when eventually the subsidy was withdrawn, the price went high, and inflation rate as a result became very, very high. That was the downside too of change. And it was not the petroleum sector alone that was affected. The government also withdrew subsidy on foreign exchange. And if you know the Nigerian system very well, we are import dependent. Most of the things we are using in this country, we are brought from abroad. So if the price of dollar becomes expensive, it has a way of affecting virtually every aspect of life. So when the government withdrew the subsidy we are paying on, foreign exchange, the price of virtually everything went up. It was a terrible thing. Everybody was affected. Everything was affected. And today, the Nigerian economy has not known peace. But despite its downsides, change can still, have a better way of impacting society. For instance, in the bank where I was working, it's called that you are asked to do certain things. The banking job involves you doing certain things. You do them without knowing why you are doing those things. But when the change in policy came and people were, allowed to improve themselves allowed to further their education and improve themselves, they began to understand why they were doing certain things. It is no longer business as usual. It is no longer you just go and do it and you go and do it. You now know why you are doing that thing. And at the end of the day, everything became better because it's eventually led to improvement in procedure, improvement in the average human being that works in the bank. So that's change for you. It could affect anybody, it could affect anyone anytime. It's a regular thing, it's inevitable. The fact is, are you ready for the eventual change that will come?